Hey, well, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Collision Live. Daniel here, and joined at the desk, as I always am, by the $1 gas station taquito to my stomach ache, Mr. Samuel David Kemp. What is up?
This barrel has no bottom that you pull from, Daniel. And, that may be the lowest one.
Yeah, I got splinters in my fingers from the scraping the bottom of that barrel. But hey, what's up? This is a lot of stuff going on this week.
Yeah, Oscars and all kinds of fun things happening. The Oscars that no one watches.
Yeah, well, Ian, when you do a weekly pop culture kind of live stream show, podcast, then you love weeks like this because it delivers stuff to talk about. So we're definitely going to get into some of the craziness that's being dominating the conversation, people slapping each other and fighting on the internet, all the stuff we love about pop culture. So we're excited to jump into that. I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you've been joining us for a while, regular here at the Collision Live, thanks for coming back. We'd love to make sure you share your thoughts in the comments section. If you're new, if you're joining us in our audio-only podcast form, then welcome to our show. Hope you'll stick around and just sort of dig into pop culture. Kind of take a biblical worldview and look at trying to make sense of this crazy world that we're in. I did think before we get into the regular part of our show, I would share some personal news. If you're watching the video version, you can see this. I got a new book. This is my author copy of a new Bible study that my brother and I did. Experiencing God. It's an 8-session teen Bible study. This thing's coming out, I think, in a couple of weeks, middle of April. So I just got my advanced copy. So it's fun. It's cool to see this. I saw even on Amazon, the book's not out yet, and it was already in the top 10 for kind of new young adult religious books. So I'm excited for that. We'll probably share more information about that when it comes closer to the release date. But to jump right into it, because we got a lot of stuff we want to get to in this episode, let's kick things off with pop culture news. So most of the things that would normally go in this segment of our show, we're going to get into later in the show in the topics. So we'll kind of skim through some of these quick. But the Oscars happened on Sunday, and oh boy, for all the jokes about the Oscars being boring, the Oscars were not boring this time. So we will definitely dive right into that in our first topic. Another thing that came out. Batman, they released kind of a deleted scene from The Batman, the most recent one, featuring the Joker, who is sort of cameos in the theatrical release, but they kind of gave a scene that you can see why they cut it out, but it's interesting. I think it has implications maybe for kind of the future of this franchise. So if you watch The Batman, make sure you check out the deleted scene, see what you guys think. Another thing, which I think maybe my kids will be more excited about than I am, Voltron. I don't know if you guys are Voltron fans, but they are making a live action version of this. I know my kids watched it, sort of like a Power Rangers sort of thing where these robots join together and make some warrior thing. I don't know. But hey, I'm sure it will be cool if you're into that. And maybe the last kind of thing that I noticed in the news, Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for the Foo Fighters, died unexpectedly at 50 years old. Trying to look into some of I think it's assumed that this was like a drug overdose, but I don't think that the actual hasn't been confirmed. I'm not a big Foo Fighters fan, but they are just one of those sort of A-list kind of rock and roll bands still going. So I think this, for a lot of people, the death of one of these members kind of sent shockwaves through the news. But yeah, that's all we have this week for pop culture news. So any of those things jump out to you? You just pumped for the new live-action Voltron? So
I cannot wait. I'll be getting my little Voltron action figers,
which I bet are actually really cool if they all connect together. I'm sure fans of the cause will be bringing my kids some
Lego
of those.
meets G.I. Joe action figure. Yeah, so can't wait for that. I'll be holding my breath.
Are you a Foo Fighters guy?
I grew up listening to Foo Fighters. I'm not like a diehard fan, but yeah, I did see that, and that's always sad to see. So that's always too bad.
Yeah, because I don't know. To me, again, I don't really listen to. They're not quite heavy metal enough for me. But we kind of think of like classic rock and like kind of the almost the stereotype of like what rock and roll is.
Yeah.
Like there's not very many of those bands that are still like kind of that classic.
I feel like
image.
It's sort of like the Foo Fighters and like Red Hot Chili Peppers. I feel like we're two of the sort of bands that sort of mark my growing up years. That are sort of that like quintessential like I don't know rock music.
Yeah, so I don't know.
These
It's
sort of
it's a sad day in rock. But like I said, probably the biggest news as far as pop culture goes this week, centered around the 2022 Oscars, the Academy Awards. So I thought we would just take a whole show and just sort of. I think there's actually several different kind of facets or things that happen at the Oscars that I think are relevant for Christians, and just interesting stuff that I wanted to talk about and hear different opinions about. So the Oscars happened on Sunday, the big ceremony, kind of celebrating, or it's supposed to be celebrating kind of the best in cinema, best picture, best actor, and editing and score and all that. Definitely an eventful night. I thought I'd just some of the, we were not going to go through all the winners and stuff. You can check that out online if you're curious. But I think there's some of the kind of the big news that came out of it as far as like the awards go. Coda won best picture. I haven't seen it. I'll probably check it out this week just because it won best picture. But this represented like the first, like this is like an Apple TV original film, which is the first streaming platform, I guess, to win Best Picture. Which
wow, I wonder how much Apple had to pay to win Best Picture.
Yeah, winning Best Picture is not cheap. It's kind of surprising. Like, I think Apple TV, I've always kind of like been snobby about, and like nothing that they do interests me, and like Amazon has a lot more stuff, and like Netflix has been at it for a while. So I don't know. It's kind of surprising that like. Apple TV is the one that.
Yeah, I mean I feel like they've been doing a bit more like interesting things, but their catalog is obviously sort of their weak point. Like whereas Netflix or Amazon, they just have like an enormous catalog of shows and movies to watch. Where Apple is, I think, seems like it's going more in the direction of publisher content first, rather than trying to like accumulate a huge
just massive
breadth
quantity of but if you guys any movie nerds out there, let us know if Coda, is it worth watching. I think I might check it out just because I think my wife does subscribe to Apple TV, even if I make fun of it. A couple other things we don't need to get into in detail, but Jane Campion won Best Director for Power of the Dog, which I have not seen, but this marked the first time in Oscars history that a woman has won back-to-back Best Director, so that's notable. And Encanto won Best Animated Feature. Still haven't seen it. Still not talking about Bruno.
Still missing out, man. It's I don't know how many dozens of times we've watched it now, but good for Encanto.
And the Oscars fan voted cheer moment. We're going to get into that in a little bit because that whole thing was a big mess. But Zack Snyder's Justice League, probably the only way it had, the open door to get into the Oscars was through this like pre-ceremony fan vote. Hans Zimmer, we are both Hans Zimmer guys.
Yep.
You should be a Hans Zimmer guy. Everyone should be a Hans Zimmer guy. I've actually seen Hans Zimmer, side story, rock out on an electric guitar in person in the Hollywood Bowl, and it was a spiritual experience for me. So Hans Zimmer's the man. Amazing. He won Best Original Score for Dune, which won a ton of awards. And the other one, Billie Eilish, she won for her original song for the new James Bond movie, and she became the first Oscar winner born in the 21st century. The first one born in the 2000s. I don't know how old is she now? Is she?
Well, she's under 22.
Yeah, so we know that much. I don't know what her actual age is, but she's still killing it. So a lot of different stuff, but of course we would be not doing our due diligence, talking about the Oscars, if we did not talk about the kind of defining moment of the Oscars, the slap. And again, you've probably, even if you're not like a movie person, you have probably seen this. It is everywhere on the internet, and it's crazy. The morning of, I didn't watch the Oscars live. I kind of watched the reruns of it and some of the highlights. I wanted just to like Google to see like who won the awards. Like, so I Googled like the Oscars. We can throw up the picture. Like every article that came up was about this moment between Will Smith and Chris Rock. I had to scroll for a while to finally like find out like who won Best Picture and all these stuff. Like, so this moment, if you're one of the few people that haven't seen this, you got Chris Rock, who's like the host of the show, and he's making jokes, kind of roasting celebs, and he makes a joke about Jada Smith, Will Smith's wife, about her baldness. Again, she's been open about has a medical condition. She's losing her hair. It's been a big thing in her journey. So he makes a story about that. Will Smith's not happy about that. He walks up in the middle of the show, smacks Chris Rock in the face, walks off, says some profane things that the national telecast bleeped out about, how dare he. And this thing completely overshadowed everything that happened in the Oscars. Like no one's talking. Even the fact that the awkwardness of it is like Will Smith ended up winning Best Actor and like had to go give a speech about 20 minutes later after just slapping Chris Rock. But what do you think about this? Because this has become one of those moments that like everyone's talking about, and like in some ways like everyone wants to like use it to like support whatever they feel like talking about, and like this is a classic example of this that I believe in, and it's this, and like so what do you think? Is it just like a stupid moment in the Oscars? Or is it more, like, what do you think?
I don't know. I think ultimately it's just that it's like a dumb moment in the Oscars, and it's just really bizarre to me, because if you watch it, it's like Will Smith is laughing, and then like he looks over at his wife, who definitely is not laughing, and then so it's like this a bit of a delayed, like, oh, I'm gonna go now defend my wife's honor, which is there any? And he goes up and like smacks Chris. It's just kind of like did that really happen? And that just, it seemed so weird to me.
Well, it was so, and I'll admit, people have like been saying that about like, he's like kind of laughing first, and I sort of like, he didn't care. Like my take at least is that he's doing, because he kind of alludes to this in his speech, that like these celebrities, like they're used to, especially at these shows where there's like cameras in their face. Like you just smile, you can be angry inside. You just sort of play it up. You don't want to like, do anything to draw attention to yourself. I kind of feel like that's what he's doing. Like he's mad at this and he's sort of laughing, and then he like sees his wife, and then it kind of sets him off. So I don't blame him for, I don't think he like was thinking that it was a funny joke. I think he was mad. He was just, trying to keep a straight face. But it is interesting, because this is like you said, like it's so bizarre that even if you like read some like the discussion like right after this thing, like the next morning, like people like a lot of people like assume that this was like scripted, like that sort of like there's no way that this was like actually happened. Like, this has to be some kind of bit.
It seemed like pre-planned in some way. It's just because of because it's so weird and strange. Like it seems like that couldn't have been just sort of a natural, like that there's no way that was just sort of like off the cuff, but maybe it was.
Yeah, and obviously, like, if you're the Oscars, you don't necessarily want your whole show to be derailed by some, if it was planned, then it was like a massive blunder. So it's clearly not clearly not planned. And then, like I said, Will Smith wins the Best Actor, and he gets up there and he gives a speech, and he kind of does like a mini apology at the end of his speech. And just today, he's like come out with an official apology, kind of say I was out of line. I can kind of explain.
Well, because I think the Academy can technically take away his Oscar because he like violated the code of conduct for the Academy, and so it's like, I'm really sorry.
And here's kind of my sort of like, is he sorry really? Like, because there's videos of him like partying afterwards and like dancing and stuff like that night, and he's sort of like, he wanted to enjoy the moment, and then he'll like feel remorseful about. But I don't know Will Smith. I've always kind of liked Will Smith, so I don't have some grudge against like kind of piling on him. Kind of my 2 cents in this whole thing is like, I think there is like lessons to be learned. I guess nothing.
For sure.
I think it was a bad taste joke that Chris Rock made. It was obviously, I think, even a worse taste reaction. You don't go in to smack someone for something like that. I don't think that this is like this is an embodiment of some bigger issue. Like, I think you have celebrities that are just on the cameras in front of them the whole time. Like, one of them snapped and made a horrible decision. Like, I don't know if it's like if this is some big thing that gives insight to any issues. Like, it's
I don't think it points to like a broader problem in Hollywood of like pent up anger and husbands or something. Like I think it is just sort of probably what it is on the surface. It's like Will Smith overreacting to a joke about his wife, and I think there's lessons to be learned there, but I don't think it sort of like points to some bigger issue in Hollywood. And I think what's funny about it is you've got folks who would probably say that like toxic masculinity is a huge problem in our society, and those same people are also saying that like good for Will Smith for like standing up for his wife and stuff. And it's just kind of a funny, like, I feel like the reactions to all this has been more interesting than like the thing itself, because it's like you've got these people who really don't like, manliness, and then like are like weirdly celebrating Will Smith for like, standing up for his wife and like doing the manly thing, and it's like, so like what is it here? And like
I think the reaction to this, I think, has been interesting. I tweeted this out the other day. Like, at least to me, like the most amusing part of this whole thing, it's not, it is maybe a serious guy assaulted someone on national TV. So not to like make too light of it, but like the amusing part of it to me is like you have all these celebrities that, like, so many of these shows, like it's such like a hive mind. Like everything that they say, like, most people in the room agree. They all clap at the same things. Like they're all like, they're speaking, like they're preaching to the choir in most cases. Then like, so like when something like this goes totally off script, like you can like see these like celebrity faces and stuff like in real time, like trying to calculate like is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is it like defending his wife? Is this violence is not the end? Like what's going to be the popular, like,
you see the smoke sort of coming out of the, it's like, how do I can't compute?
Yeah, what's the, you just have like, all these PR people that are just kind of going into overdrive to try and like, help these people in real time, not make like a PR blunder. I did think one of the things that just stand out to me in Will Smith's speech, when he wins Best Actor, he's sharing a conversation he had with Denzel Washington, who is just the man. Like Denzel's the man. But he's some of the kind of advice or comments that Denzel had just given Will Smith, apparently before he went up on stage to win the award, not to beat up Chris Rock, where he said, "At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you." And I do think, like, not that we want to like make this too much of a thing, but like, I think one of the lessons I think there is in that is like Will Smith's been trying to win like an Oscar like his whole career, and like he deserved it. I think like he's an amazing actor, and like basically about 20 minutes before like he finally reaches the mountaintop, like he makes a terrible like judgment call, and it just totally overshadows like like in 10 years when people think like, hey, Will Smith in the 2022 Oscars, like, is
no one's gonna be thinking
remember
that he won. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he was in King Richard. That was what a great performance. Like, it's all gonna be the slap. Like, this is gonna become a joke in every Oscars. Like,
and we'll talk about this maybe more in our next segment. But like sort of the memes that have already just sort of been like flooding our feeds of just like, Chris Rock being whatever, and then like Will Smith with the slap, like being whatever it is that sort of shuts you down in whatever context. Like those have just kind of have gone crazy already. Like they're all over the place now, and so like that's what's like, no one's going to be like, oh, King Richard, that was such a great movie.
I guess even like I also tweeted out like, or someone, I've seen people using this as like the new like Batman slaps Robin meme. Like, it's just that image is going to be everywhere. But it is like I think there's like a tendency for like people to like jump on like, now Will Smith is just this like angry bad person. Like the crazy thing is like he hasn't had that reputation at all. Like he's been one of the good guys in Hollywood, and like, you can say you have issues with like the way he parents his kids or some of the things he does or the way he views his marriage and stuff. Like, but like no one would necessarily think of him as this like crazy like rage monster. Like, but like he makes a terrible choice, and like that's just sort of like that's all it really takes to like completely change the narrative about like about you as a person, as an actor. Like,
and I think that's one of sort of the saddest parts of this whole thing. It's like it's so sad to see like you reach sort of the height of his career, and like 20 minutes before that, like you've completely derailed like your whole persona, your whole reputation. Like, I don't know. So I think it is. That's one of those like lessons that I think we can all sort of learn from. It's like, don't let your emotions get the better of you. Like, especially when you're like reaching to new heights that you haven't had before. And so it is. I mean, it's just, it's really unfortunate for him.
And I encourage you, if you guys haven't yet, like, check out his I think he's like, he put it on Instagram, and I'm sure a bunch of like articles and stuff have pulled it. Like his actual apology, it's not very long, but like, he just explains what happens, and he kind of ends it off by saying, like, I'm still a work in progress. I do think that, especially as Christians, like, not that we like, just sort of ignore whenever anyone does like and anytime someone smacks someone else, hey, they're a work in progress, don't worry about it. Like, it's still wrong. Like, it's still not the right. There was a million other better ways that he could have using his speech to speak on. Like there's was a bunch of other ways, but I do think that there is this sort of lack of grace to in the heat of the moment, and there's like cameras on him, and like it's an emotional day. Like not that that excuses it, but like
No.
to completely like kind of bury him now as like now he's an awful person because he did this one
No,
thing.
and I think if anybody can sort of bounce back from sort of a slip like this, I feel like it would be Will Smith, and like someone who has, I think, sort of just developed so much goodwill with people in general, and especially just Hollywood. I feel like Will Smith is one of those people that can, I think, will be fine, like to bounce back from this, and I think I think he is genuine in his apology, and I think ultimately he'll be fine. But I think maybe this can be used as sort of a turning point in sort of a lot of the quick judgmental blacklisting of like people who have different views or make a mistake, and rather than just jumping straight to sort of the cancellation of their careers. And hopefully this infuses some grace back into the whole ecosystem of Hollywood and pop culture.
Yeah, and we'll say, and then we'll move on to the next thing. But Chris Rock is like, what a pro, like,
A legend.
Again, I think the joke's in poor taste. I've seen mixed reports whether he knew it was a medical condition or was just making a comment about the hairstyle. I don't know what the truth is there, but comedy is, it always is pushing the lines and saying what thing other people can't say, but like to get hit in the face and then just sort of like roll with it and finish out the show. Like,
Yeah.
It's
What a
a
pro.
skill. We were going to talk about some of this Oscars, kind of the relevancy. I think we'll push that till next episode, maybe, unless something else even crazier happens, and kind of get into that. I want us to have time to get into our next topics. But let's know your thoughts. What do you guys think of the whole the slap? Do you make anything of it, or is it nothing? Is it a bigger deal? Does it represent anything? I'd love to just hear different opinions on that.
Is it a plea for ratings?
Yeah, we will definitely be see if people tune in next year to see the sequel, the Slap Part 2. But speaking of opinions that we love to hear here at the Collision Live, we have our next segment, which is Host Corner.
All right. Well, this Host Corner is going to be more of a public service announcement maybe than something that I'm really into necessarily. But, summer's on its way. And one thing that goes really great with summer is a nice McFlurry or those $1 sundaes from McDonald's. But if you're like me, 9 times out of 10, you roll up to the drive-through McDonald's, and what happens? The ice cream maker is down, or the McFlurry machine is broken. So the good people over at Jack in the Box have developed a website that is solely dedicated to finding out if your local McDonald's has a broken ice cream maker. And I just think this is a brilliant piece of advertising for a competitor in the fast food industry. But you can go there, you can see there's an image there on the screen. You can, find your neighborhood McDonald's, and it will say if it is broken or unavailable or if it's working. And so as summer heats up, you won't be up the creek when it comes to cooling off.
Well, I think I speak for all of us, maybe for the American people, for thanking you for making us aware of this.
My pleasure.
There's few things in life worse than getting to a drive-thru and like not getting the ice cream that you wanted.
Exactly. Like it's demoralizing, really.
Which, in my experience, if you do find one that is working, then like that's the exception to the rule.
Yeah, and I think the funny thing too, not to get too deep in the weeds on this, but I think there's even been like legal action against McDonald's because like it's like borderline false advertising because the frequency with which those like ice cream makers are down, it's like more so than when they're working. And so like I feel like there's been rumblings of like you need to like take that off the menu or like whatever if like it's actually
how does the and then we'll move on to the next segment, but like how does the website handle like the gray area? Because like the Dairy Queen that we my family we've gone to like to get a dessert or something, like it, or I guess not Dairy Queen, but like the fast food place, like it's working, but like it's just basically water. Like it's like it's not out of commission, but like it's
like they still serve you something.
Like it's past its prime.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there is a a color for like not good machine.
Outdated, whatever. But hey, ice cream's yummy, and if you're gonna pay that $3 for it, then you want to get your money's worth.
Exactly.
But speaking of things that are important in our society, like ice cream, communication, technology. One of the ways we use technology is to just discover where the best place is to get ice cream. Another way we use technology is to fight with each other on the internet and have conversations. So this is a conversation. It's kind of a broad one, but it's somewhat topical because Stephen, am I saying his name right? White. It's not spelt like white, but it kind of seems phonetically like it would be white or whitey. But this guy's the creator of the GIF or GIF, if you're a monster and you use that pronunciation. He just died actually of COVID, which is sad, at age 74, just about a week ago. So it's kind of brought the whole discussion about GIFs and GIFs and some of that stuff. People have been articles and celebrating the creator of it, and we all leave our legacy, and that's what his legacy. But I thought it was interesting because I think GIFs are like this sort of weird, like me and my wife have had entire conversations where like we just use those, and like we understood what the other one was saying, and like no more words were needed, and we knew like what to do, and like there's a GIF for absolutely everything.
Oh yeah.
Any situation. I've been known to spend way too much time like scrolling through just to find like the perfect one. But I do think it's an interesting kind of like a wider I guess conversation that I think sometimes there's a lot of like we focus on like the content of what we're talking about and like debating and stuff. And I don't know if we always we know technology and like social media like is important and it is influencing us. And you hear about like the Instagram generation, and like I think there is an understanding that like these aren't neutral things, but like I don't know if we always like think as deeply about like just how kind of the ways that like these different mediums and like the use of like GIFs or Twitter and stuff, like how that actually like kind of shapes the way we even like are able to communicate or discuss. Like what do you think? You can kind of jump into or get us into this, but like
well, I think it's certainly changed how people communicate pretty dramatically, because I think you can even now like you can communicate purely in GIFs or in emojis, like just how you express what you're thinking or feeling. I feel like has changed so dramatically. Like you don't really like even before say like social media, even just in like text form, like just the abbreviated nature of communication, even before there was like social media, even that I feel like was already starting to sort of change how we communicate and just how we sort of view communication.
Because it's funny because the text thing, to jump in, like even like, and I'm probably not alone in this, like my parents and stuff, like I feel like that sort of generation like on up, like if you like message them about something, like, they will message you saying like, sorry, I can't respond now, but I will respond later. Like we're like, I feel like my generation kind of on down, like we just, hey, respond when you can, when you have time. Like if it's tomorrow, that's fine. Like, if it's immediate, then maybe you get frustrated. But like, I think just the like phone generation as opposed to like the text where it's, you just do it in your own time. Like it's just the expectations of like how we communicate, like that it's not immediate. Like it's this sort of drawn out thing.
Right. And I think, I do think it just sort of totally changes how people communicate and especially I think how people talk to each other. And so I think there is sort of that, there's been a lot of folks saying how we're like losing the ability to have conversations or conversations lasting more than 5 minutes with people. But we can be on our phones and be talking through social media or text for just hours on end. And there is just sort of this loss of maybe, I don't know, ability to communicate in a face-to-face way. And you throw in a 2-year pandemic and it's like people don't know how to talk to each other now. And so I think it is something that, I think it's changing how we communicate far more than we realize. And I think because it's been so gradual, I think that's something that, for better or worse, like that's kind of where we're headed. And especially with kids growing up in it, like, your kids and my kids, like what are their communication skills going to be like, 10, 20 years from now?
Because even like my wife's she's a middle school art teacher, and like she's in her second year teaching, but like even just like seeing some of like the kids and stuff, like, because COVID just shut everything down in school, and a lot of people were virtual, and it just forced a lot of people to like only communicate through like technology.
Yeah.
And like I think we're like on the cusp, and she can like, and some of the other teachers, I can already see just some of that, like there's something missing. Like they almost have to like relearn how to like actually relate to people, like beyond just like these sort of sending a GIF or a meme. And I pulled a couple different ways, I think, that like maybe like unique things with like certain technologies. Like I think Facebook almost like nowadays it's allowed people to like communicate through like experts. Like we don't really need to like have an opinion. We just sort of like
just
find
share
an
the
article. And like again, you can find an article that supports anything you believe. Like whatever issue it is, there's some expert somewhere that believes that exact thing, and it's the most important thing that you could possibly believe. And like so we just sort of share these like experts that like, so it's almost like we don't even have to like engage in the conversation. It's just like, well, this person said this, well, this person said the opposite, and then we just sort of keep sending back. Like Twitter, obviously the kind of the famous one, like the 280 characters, and we've kind of got a little bit around that with like threads. Now it's like, here's my thoughts on this. It's like a 74 part thread. So we kind of get around some of that, but it has like forced us to think in like very bite-sized sound bites, rather than like, because you can even like I've taught like online college classes, and like you can even see some of that, like the inability to like string together like long thoughts beyond these like kind of this little bite-sized like
chunks.
Chunks. And we were talking about this even before we went live. Things like TikTok and stuff, like which again I think TikTok's maybe one of the plagues of Egypt or something. But like but just how it very much like incentivizes like standing out and like being outrageous and like viral, and like the whole platform almost like, and again all social media is to some degree kind of like that, but like it like exists in order like, the ones that are the craziest are the ones that are going to get the most traction. And like so even I think just some of that like almost pushes people to like hold these beliefs like at a degree that they wouldn't normally if it was just like person to person or whatever.
Well, and I think in many ways you're not even like talking to someone else. You're just sort of, a lot of these you're just blasting your thoughts or your ideas or sharing whatever you think is funny or what have you, or interesting. You're just kind of blasting that into the ether, and you're not really having a conversation. Like most of these, you're not. It's really hard to sort of converse. Maybe Twitter is the exception, but that has a lot of other issues. But like you're not really talking to other people. You're just kind of sending out whatever it is you want to send out, and then just waiting for the affirmation or non-affirmation that comes back from it. And so it's just this weird sort of, I'm just going to put this stuff out there and then just see what people think about it. And you're not really having a dialogue with someone. You're just sending out the stuff that you want to send out, and you're consuming other people's stuff as well. So it's just sort of this weird kind of parallel communication device of like, you just send out your thoughts and whatever you think is entertaining, and you consume the stuff that other people are sending out, but there's not a whole lot of like actual conversation happening. It's just sort of, you blast it and hope it sticks, and hopefully you're going to be famous and go viral or whatever. And it's like,
you miss some of the like the dialogue. Like a TikTok video, they can say whatever they want, like it's their own video, and like they preach their message, but you don't have as much of this like, hey, we're going to sit down with someone that doesn't agree with me and like talk about it. And like, that's even why here at the Collision, to plug our own social media technology thing, like thing like our Turning Red review had a bunch of comments. Like I've tried to like respond to all the comments and like make it a dialogue beyond just like, hey, here's our thoughts, and we're just gonna move on, like because I think we are missing some of that of just like, let's talk. It's fine to like to talk about some of this stuff and not to sort of like blast it out. And again, memes are sort of like like a lot of these, it's just, I think the use of memes has almost like wired us to like think simplistically about non-simple issues, like some little like soundbite and some like Willy Wonka picture or something, and it's like there I have defeated atheism, or I have defeated religious people, like, and sometimes at our Collision, like we get memes about people like angry atheists that are mad at us, and like it's like this like this is like a picture of like of a raptor, and it's like scratching his chin, and like it has like some like one line, and that's gonna like undo like the biggest religion in like history. Like
Yeah, well,
it's taught us, I guess, to like think if it can fit on a picture, then like it's obviously not complex.
yeah. I mean, I think it's just created a whole class of pot shot people. If like just really the thing is to get in your quip or get in your jab, and the point is not to dialogue or to interact with or engage with people. It's to get your jab in and then move on to the next thing, and it's all about sort of one-upping or winning, and less about like building an actual community of people. And I think part of it is that it's so big now, and there's so many people on these platforms that it can seem very impersonal and very impossible to like connect with people. So I think you just end up sort of putting yourself out there or trying to get your jabs in where you can and say, oh, this will be funny. Like I'll make fun of this person or that person, rather than just like use it to connect with people that you care about. You're just kind of like, going around trying to just see what you can do that can maybe get you some traction and gain more followers and make you, more viral or whatever. And it just sort of, it incentivizes, I think, all of the lesser angels of our nature.
And it's sort of like the good news is like, technology has allowed like everyone to have a voice and have a platform. And like the bad news is that
Everybody has
everyone have a voice and have a platform. And like,
Yeah.
it's not like you have to have any kind of knowledge or do any kind of homework or like studied before you like just, spew all your opinions about something. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, you can just do that, and it can, and all those things get picked up. And I would say, and then we can kind of, wind down our live stream, but like I don't think this is not like an issue for like the secular world. Like,
Yeah.
their use of technology, Christians, at least in my own, like, personal experience, like we are just as bad at all of these things.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The amount of times like I've seen like, memes, like apologetic memes that like, just own atheists in 30 seconds. And I'm like, I think there is a God. Like, I think, there are lots of arguments why Darwinism is not true, but like all those things are way more nuanced than like a 30 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
I've got a PhD in that, and like I couldn't do that in 30 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think it's not helping things. Like, I think the dialogue and some of that, like, it might like get like a lot of like likes or like cheering and like people that like the choir that agrees with what's being said. But
Yeah.
but I do think, I guess, Christians, we need to kind of go beyond just sort of these
Definitely.
sound bites and memes and like, hey, well, if we can get a GIF from The Office, then like, what else needs to be said of this deep conversation.
Exactly.
But let us know, how is technology in your own life? Kind of how has that maybe influenced the way that you communicate, just on a personal level, or how you like dialogue or engage with like cultural issues or deeper things? I know a lot of teachers are struggling with some of that, just how that's, academic essays may not be what they once were, just because our brains, I think, have been slowly wired to think differently. Maybe not necessarily always worse, but definitely. So let us know your thoughts on that. And the last part of our show we got is This Week at the Collision. I got several things kind of going on this week. Could you check out, I did a review for The Lost City, kind of the romantic comedy weird movie with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. The short version is kind of, I don't know about the movie, but if you want to unpack that, check out the review.
Yeah.
I got both a written and a video review, and I also just released an article called that about the Christian home and how it should actually be like a training ground, not a safe space.
Yeah, it's really good.
I think it's an important thing. I can see, I don't expect everyone to agree with what I'm saying, but I do think it's a conversation that is definitely worth having. And are we preparing our young adults and children to go into a crazy world, or are we just trying to shelter them and kind of be in a bit of denial? And the last thing, encourage you guys, I know we've been plugging it, we won't plug it forever, but it's still pretty new that we have the Collision Live podcast. This is the audio only version. I know some of you might be listening to us right now on the audio only version, but hey, if you're not able to watch us live, but you're going to drive home later today and want to just listen to us, I encourage you to subscribe to that anywhere you can find your podcast. Other than that, anything else going on?
I think that about sums it up. I think we've hit on a lot of stuff today. So
yeah. So hey, thanks for watching. If you're gonna get some ice cream today, make sure you check out that app.
McBroken.com. You're welcome.
No more disappointment. So hey, we appreciate that.
We're here to serve.
We are here to serve you. But thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe and continue to collide with your world for Christ.